Alright, so welcome back everybody. So for this video, I'm going to be reviewing the cards that came in this Seaside update pack. Talking about them and telling you guys what I think about them. And the obviously the cards that they replaced and took out of the second edition of Seaside. So, without further ado, let's get to the cards. So for our first grouping of cards here, we have Tide Pools, the new card, and Navigator, the old card. Now, I never liked Navigator, so I'm happy to see that this was one of the cards that they replaced. However, Tide Pools is a really nice, interesting card, and it's very thematic when you think about it. So, when you play it as an action, you get 3 cards and an action, which is pretty straightforward. And then at the start of your next turn, you discard 2 cards. So you only have 3 cards for your next hand for each of these that you have in play. Basically, you'll be discarding a lot of cards. If you play too many of these Tide Pools on a single turn, you will be discarding a lot of cards at the start of your next turn. But obviously, you only have 5 cards usually at the start of your turn. So if you had played 3 of these in one turn, these 3 of these Tide Pool cards in one turn, then you just won't have any cards to start your turn off with the next time. But the potential of a strong first turn is really good. And it's thematic when you think about it, because when you go to a Tide Pool, there are times when you can go to a Tide Pool and check out all the different animals and stuff like that in the Tide Pools. And then there are times when the tide will come back up, and you won't be able to visit the Tide Pools, because, you know, it'll be covered by the ocean. And so it's a very thematic card that right now you can enjoy the benefits of the Tide Pools because it's shallow, but then your next turn it becomes deep again. So I really like Tide Pools, the new card that replaced this one. I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorites from this update pack. So let's move on to the next 2 cards. Okay, so here's the next 2 cards. Alright, so we have Blockade and Embargo. I really like Embargo, and I am very, very sad to see this one not in the next second edition. But what do I think about the new card in Blockade? Well, first of all, you gain a card costing up to 4, setting it aside. At the start of your next turn, you get to put it into your hand. While it's set aside, when another player gains a copy of it, their turn, they also get a minus point card. So I actually like this one. It does prevent your opponents from buying that particular card that you're gaining, and it does it even if they gain it. So if they were to gain a copy of it, whether they bought it or gained it, they would still get the minus point card anyways. So I really like this one. I really like the replacement of this, but I still really like this a lot. So I am happy that they made this. I really like Blockade. And it's sort of like a miniature version of the Embargo. And unlike Embargo, Blockade doesn't hurt you physically, while Embargo, of course, still does. Playing Embargo will still hurt you if you decide to buy cards from the piles that you embargo. This, you just prevent 1 card that turn from being bought. But if you were able to get this played a few times in the same turn and you gained a bunch of different cards, you could, in a sense, be definitely blocking your opponents from getting those cards unless they want to get a minus point card for their troubles. So, I really like the Blockade, but I am sad to see the Embargo go. Okay, next 2 cards. So, we have the Monkey and the Ghost Ship. Okay, well, I actually recreated a new card, or should I say replaced a card in one of the other expansions and made it a monkey. And so here we have a monkey in this expansion. But I still really like this card. Now, what do I feel about Ghost Ship, the card that Monkey replaces? Well, Ghost Ship is an attack card, and I do like attack cards, so I am sad to see this one go, but I'm not too terribly it doesn't hurt me nearly as much as embargo does. So if it gets replaced, that's fine. It doesn't hurt me that much. There are plenty of attack cards in the sea, especially in seaside. So what does this card do? The monkey, though. What's so interesting about this one? So until the start of your next turn, when the player to your right gains a card, you draw a card. And at the start of your next turn, you get to draw a card. So until your next turn, when your opponents, if they gain a card, you get to draw a card. You get +1 card. It's only, of course, to your right. So it's only your opponent to your right. Not all of your opponents, just the one to your right. If he gains a card, that turn, you draw a card. And then if he does not gain a card, you still get +1 card at the start of your next turn. So in a sense, you're getting 2 cards with the monkey, but only if your opponent also, to your right, gains a card until your next turn. Still, that is pretty cool because it's when they gain a card. So they could potentially gain more than 1 card. If they bought multiple cards or they gained multiple cards, you would get +1 card for each card they got. So if they gained 3 or 4 cards, you'd get to draw a lot of cards with the monkey in play. And if you had multiple monkeys in play, ooh, just think of the fun chaos that would ensue. Well, your opponents would, of course, not look at the monkey in the same way as you, but still, it's a good card. I really like this card, Monkey. And even though I'm sad to see this one go, I'm not too terribly upset about the ghost ship leaving. So let's see what the next cards are. So here we have the Pirate and the Explorer. The Pirate's the new card. The Explorer is the old card. I am not sad to see this one go. I never liked playing with this card, and it's one of the most hated cards in this expansion, so I am happy that the Explorer is going, that it's not going to be in the 2nd edition. Very happy to see it go. Okay, but this new card, Pirate, is a really good one. It's an action, it's a duration, and it's a reaction. There's not many cards out there that are action, duration, reaction. And so what does this Pirate do? Well, at the start of your next turn, you gain a treasure costing up to 6 to your hand. So you could get a gold, for instance, to your hand at the start of your next turn by playing it. And then when any player gains a treasure, you may play this from your hand. So if this is in your hand and somebody gains a treasure, then you can use it to gain, you can use this to play it from your hand. So that way on your next turn, before you actually were to play this, you'd be getting that 6 costing card to your hand immediately, or earlier than usual. So I really like that reaction, and it's a really interesting reaction for sure. Now, usually when you think of a pirate, you think it's of an attack card, but the fact that it is not an attack card, and it's just a reaction, and that you're simply just taking advantage of somebody else's benefit, you're getting a benefit too if you have this in your hand when somebody gains a treasure. That is awesome. So the Pirate, I really love the Pirate, and obviously it's a good one. So bye-bye Explorer, and hello Pirate. Okay, so the next 2 cards. So here we have the Corsair and the Pirate Ship. Now the Pirate Ship is the old card, and the Corsair is the new card. They are both attack cards. What do I think of the Pirate Ship? Yes, it's an attack card, but it's a relatively weak attack card. Not only that, it's extremely weak in a 2-player game. So I actually didn't like playing with it in a 2-player game. I never bought it during a 2-player game. And even if you were playing with 4 people, it was rarely played with. So I'm not too sad to see this one go. I am sad the fact that now that Pirate Ship mat is also going with it. It's also going bye-bye, and it's also not going to be in the 2nd edition, which is kind of sad when when they kept the other 2 cards, the Island and the Native Village, which both have mats, right? But still, they are getting rid of this one. So it's a little sad to see the Pirate Ship mat go, and just the uniqueness of the card, see it go is kind of sad. And, the coin tokens that go with it, it's not going to be utilized now because of that reasoning. But what's the new card? Corsair. What does it do? Well, you get 2 money when you play it, 2 treasure. And at the start of your next turn, you get +1 card. Until then, each other player trashes the first silver or gold they play each turn. Oh, I love this card. This is awesome. So, it's got a nice little benefit now when you play it. It's got a little additional benefit at the start of your next turn by getting that extra card. But then, until then, if somebody plays a silver or a gold, they still get the treasure that they're going to get for it, but they're going to lose the first one they play. So they have to obviously think about which treasure cards they're going to play first. If they play their gold before their silver, they're going to lose their gold. So they have to be wise to make sure that they play the silver first before the gold because of the Corsair's ability. So they have to be careful about that. But still, it's an awesome card, and it'll make players think twice about playing their treasures from their hand that turn. When a Corsair is in play, they may not want to play their golds because they'll lose them. They might not want to do it, especially if it's their first gold and it's the only gold they have and this is in play. They might decide to hold off, especially if they're not going to need it to buy something anyways. It might be just wise to not play it. So it's definitely going to be keeping people thinking more and being more cautious about what treasures they're going to play on their turn. So I really like this attack card. I like it a lot more than the pirate ship. The pirate ship is definitely a weaker version. But the good news is, the only good news is, if they have to trash the first silver or gold they play each turn, they still get the treasure for it regardless. They don't lose the treasure amount for that turn, they just lose the card. So that's something. At least it's not a total downer. But still, that's a powerful attack card, and I'm happy to see this one in the collection. So, let's move on to the next cards. Okay. Here we have these 2 cards. Now you'll notice, this is not from the update pack. Well, the effect is exactly the same, so I did not like Sea Witch, so I replaced it. Replaced it with my own idea for the expansion. Placed it with my own idea, but it does the exact same thing that, well, Sea Witch did, basically. So the Kraken is the replacement, and the Sea Hag is the old card. Now this is an attack card. And what do I think about the Sea Hag? Well, it's one of the attack cards I never liked. I almost never bothered buying it. Yes, you could give out your opponent's -point cards, for sure, and you could discard the top card of their deck as well. That was kind of a minor attack effect, really. Didn't really affect them too much, unless the top card was something like a gold, but if they had tons of golds, oh well. It wasn't super strong. Plus, it has no benefit at all, so you play it, but you get no benefit, which is what made this card such an annoying card, because you get no benefit for playing it. So I'm happy to see this one actually get replaced. One of the few attack cards that I'm absolutely happy to see replaced, Sea Hag. But the Kraken, what does the Kraken do? And remember, it does the exact same thing that Sea Witch does. Well, you get +2 cards, and then each other player gains a Wasteland. For me, Wasteland is Curse. I don't play with the Curse cards. I instead replaced Curse with Wasteland. And so, if I'm going to replace a card, I am going to put down Wasteland instead of Curse. I won't, of course, get rid of a card simply just because it says Curse on it, though. I will just get rid of the cards in general. But anyways, so you get to draw 2 cards with it. Each other player gains a -point card. And at the start of your next turn, you get +2 cards, and then you discard 2 cards. So it's a pretty good card. I like it a lot. Of course, it is sort of like a dungeon sort of like variant, because dungeon kind of did that. It kind of forced you to draw 2 cards at the start of your next turn and then discard them. Sometimes that was good, sometimes it wasn't. But still, it's not that horrible of a card. I still prefer this one over this one here. This attack card with this benefit is way better than this card, this attack card with no benefit, for sure. So I am happy to see this one in the collection, of course, with my own theme, the Kraken. So let's move on to the next cards. Okay, so here we have the Sea Chart and the Pearl Diver. The Sea Chart is the new card. The Pearl Diver is the old card. What do I think of this card? Well, when I first got it, I liked it because of the theme of the card, mostly. But the action effect I don't like. It's kind of a boring, regular card. A regular cantrip is what I've heard it is. So, and it's kind of a boring one. And it doesn't really help you a lot. Look at the top, look at the bottom card of your deck. You may put it on top. I mean, that's after you do this. So I suppose if you had multiple Pearl Divers in your hand and you played them, you could potentially get a good card that was sitting on the bottom of your deck, putting it on top. But that would require you to have multiple of these in play, or, you know, obviously something else that gives you a plus card, right? So I didn't like this one that much. It's not a hated card though, but I'm not sad to see it go either. So this new card, Sea Chart, it gives you a card, it gives you an action, just like Pearl Diver did on the top part, but then you reveal the top card of your deck. If you have a copy of it in play, you get to put it into your hand. So that's pretty cool. You get to reveal the top card of your deck, and if you have a copy of it in play, you get to put it into your hand. That's really cool. Let's say you had a gold in. Let's say, well, you wouldn't have a gold in play probably, but let's say you had another Sea Chart in play, and then you played this, and you revealed the top card of your deck, and it was a Sea Chart. You get to put it into your hand. You could keep chaining this. If you had a lot of Sea Charts, that's a possibility that could happen. But then if you had another action card already in play before this, and you reveal that card, and it's that particular action card, it could be very advantageous to be able to play it after this, of course. So the Sea Chart is really interesting, and of course it comes down to just simple luck, of course. Still, I really like this one, the Sea Chart, a lot, and it's definitely a lot better than this, for sure. A lucky chance of getting to put an extra card into your hand is way better than not being able to put an extra card into your hand, because that's what the Pearl Diver did not do. It did not give you an extra card for your hand. This one potentially does. So better, not so good. Moving on. Okay, we still have a few more cards to go over. Just a few more. Okay. So here we have Sailor and Ambassador. The old card that was replaced is Ambassador, and the new card is Sailor. I really do enjoy Ambassador. It's a very interesting attack card, and I'm very sad to see the Ambassador go. But what does this new card do? The Sailor. What does it do? Well, it gives me a plus action, and then once this turn, when you gain a duration card, you may play it. Well, that's interesting. So you have this in play, and then if you somehow gain a duration card while this is in play, you may play it. That's interesting. It could be a bunch of different things. There's a lot of duration cards, especially new ones in this expansion. You could potentially get some good ones with the Sailor. But then at the start of your next turn, you get +2 treasure, and then you may trash a card from your hand. It's a new card in the expansion that lets you trash cards. I did not like Lookout, which is a card that lets you trash cards, and the only other card that lets you trash cards was Salvager. So now there's technically a third card that lets you trash cards from your hand, and out of all three of them, this I'd have to say is my favorite. Of course, this first effect is still kind of, you know, not potentially always going to work once per turn, you know, that first part. But the fact that you get an action, so you didn't waste an action playing this, and then the fact that you get 2 money at the start of your next turn, plus you may trash a card, I like that. You may trash a card. I love that. So while I am sad to see the Ambassador go, I am happy to see the Sailor in the new expansion. So, let's move on. Okay, so the next card does not replace any of the cards from the expansion. Astrolabe here, what it does is now and at the start of your next turn, you get +1 treasure, +1 buy. So it's basically giving you a copper now, it's basically acting as a copper next turn, but you're also going to get an extra buy next turn and an extra buy this turn. So it's a really good card, and it's pretty cheap, of course. So I'd still have to say this is a pretty good card, and it's a nice little addition to the expansion. So, now, we've gone over all the new cards, and I wanted to just mention that in my box, these 2 cards I'm actually going to basically take out of the box. I'm taking out the Lookout, and I'm taking out the Merchant Ship, okay? And this is, of course, just what I'm doing. And then I'm adding the Ambassador, and I am keeping my Embargo. So the Embargo and the Ambassador will still have a special slot in my box, and these will not. So that's just what I'm doing. These were the only 2 disappointments replaced, while these 2 I was very unhappy to not see bite the dust. So that's it for this review of Dominion Seaside. I hope you guys liked my review of the new cards, and I hope to see you again. Hope you see you again, watch my videos, and if you liked this, don't forget to leave me a like. See you guys again next time.